Therapy Geeks, a podcast by Luke McGibbon and Louise Taylor.
No dog is the same.
No.
Same as children. Children
Are
are
we
like children are like dogs. That's how we're gonna start it.
Sorry, we're gonna. That's actually gonna be how we start this.
They should be seen and not heard. That's the title of this. That's
So-
the title of this week's podcast.
So welcome
Welcome to this
Therapy
Therapy Geeks.
Geeks.
Sorry,
Yeah, I forgot that.
yeah. Welcome to this.
Therapy Geeks episode 3.
3. It's a trilogy now.
Yeah. And this one is looking at mental health in children.
Yes, fascinating subject.
Yeah, so just before this, well, immediately before, it's been a bit messy. Messy. But messy's okay.
Messy's what childhood's all about, isn't it? You
Yeah.
know? Imagine a tidy childhood. It's not a childhood at all. It's the
No.
childhood of a robot.
Yes, it is. Well, before it was messy, we interviewed Lucia, who's
Yes.
my 6-year-old child.
Yes.
So I don't know if that'll probably be at the end of this at some stage, but that was quite interesting.
I think it was, definitely.
lovely.
Yeah, it was. Quite enlightening. Even like, there's just little things that I just thought are like, oh, they're so important and kind of applicable to therapy as well. Right, I'm not sure if we're gonna keep this part of the recording because it was before we asked any questions. But the first thing that Lucia said whenever she took the mic was, "Oh, this is weird." And I often find that that's the first feeling that young people, particularly teenagers, because teenagers everything's weird and awkward.
Oh yeah.
That's the first thing that they're going to feel when it comes to therapy. That very suddenly, it's like a new kind of attention. Like it's neither good nor bad. And it's sort of a blank experience. They don't know what to expect, and what they do expect is quite sort of smoky and nebulous. So like anytime I've counselled young people, like the first thing I've said is just even before I close the door sometimes is this must be kind of weird for you, like because it is.
Yeah.
And it's a nice bit of basic empathy just to start with. What do you think?
I think, well, you see, with the experience I have with working with children, so it would be with groups a lot, and I find that the environment has to be incredibly supportive and incredibly respectful before they feel very comfortable sharing.
Yeah,
And I think that might be a lot to do with the school environment,
sure.
where there's a fear of getting it wrong.
Yeah.
So in a lot of my sessions, it's very, very clear there is no wrong here. Even if you say something that I completely do not agree with and goes against my beliefs, like it's not wrong, because I have beliefs as a child or as a teenager that are no longer. I no longer hold them. So I do think that it's quite hard. But also in my private practice, if I've had parent and child sessions, sometimes the parents bring the children and they're keen to leave the children.
Yes.
But the children are reluctant to be left, and I encourage the parents to really listen to that.
Yeah.
Really listen. That's them protecting themselves. That's listening to their trust. That's their intuition. They've never met me.
Yeah.
They don't know me, and they want you to stay close. So therefore, I would have parent-children sessions.
I think that's it's a sign of maybe inadequate explanation. I think that's like a big problem. For all parents is it's like when something seems like it would be too big for a kid to understand, sometimes you just don't explain it at all, which is far worse. I think anything. What's that old saying? I think it was Albert Einstein said something like, if you can't simplify something enough to tell it to a child, then you don't know that thing. Like,
Yeah.
oh
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too. It's like children are still developing a language, and they're still they're gaining so much awareness. They're bombarded with so many new experiences that they will look to us for guidance. But I think all too often, as parents, as adults, as teachers, we think that we have to present as having it all sorted.
Yes.
And being a source of complete knowledge. And we feel like, I think there's sometimes like a lack of parents and adults being able to show, well, actually, I don't know at all.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea. That's interesting. And also, this is another thing. In my sessions, even though I'm paid to come and increase awareness and educate, I often learn a lot more than they do.
Oh yeah. There's probably, among all these quotes, there's probably one of those famous ones about oh no, I can see one right in front of us. Louise print out a load of quotes about childhood, and I thought I would try and take the whole Rain Man approach and spread them out on sheets across the ground so I can just pick from them, but now I'm being overloaded. But no, I found one. Okay, so Paulo Coelho. A child can teach an adult three things: to be happy for no reason, to always be busy with something, and to know how to demand with all his might that which he desires.
Oh.
It's so applicable to something you said just before we started recording, which is that, you know, with kids, like if they don't want to do something, you cannot make them do it. Like
it's hard.
In my day job with adults with learning difficulties, this is something I've learned, not with all adults with learning difficulties, and I imagine not with all children either, but often like a direct request is something that's going to get you the most resistance. So let's say if you want somebody to have a shower, like something as simple as that, and you're like, you know, the approach most people I imagine would take is like reminders, like, remember you got to take a shower today. Reminders turning into a request, like, are you gonna have a shower today? Like, and then direct, have a shower today, and like each one will mount more and more resistance in your direction. Like you're saying that sometimes you have to kind of be like sneaky, don't you? You have to like appeal to their best or worst interests, and how good it will feel to have a shower, and how it feels really nice to be clean. Or, you know, maybe when they're a teenager, you go, you know, maybe more boys will like you when you're clean, or maybe more girls will like you when you're clean. I don't know, but you have to make attempts to appeal to somebody's, you know, needs or wants, I guess.
Yeah. But that's the thing with the way I parent and the way I do a lot of things. I think about the way that I would want to be parented, or how I would want to be treated. And I find that really easy to think of myself as a child.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
How so?
To think of like how I felt whenever adults treated me a certain way.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I didn't like that, so I won't do that. Or I'll try not to.
Yes.
Like I get it wrong, but I also say sorry a lot if I get it wrong. But I do remember me as a child thinking of the way that adults treated me was unjust. So why would I not want my children to not feel that?
Right. So you're saying that like sorry,
No, go for
I
it.
feel like I interrupted you.
No.
So you're saying that like having particularly vivid memories of childhood helps you better put yourself in the place of a child, which helps you be a better parent.
Well, I'm hoping.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong.
Yeah.
So I would be quite I don't know, maybe relaxed in my parenting style. So it wouldn't be very punitive, child-centered.
Okay.
Put their needs, listen to them, respect them.
Yeah.
Now, and then also the idea is that they feel good about themselves, they feel empowered, and then they lead to an empowered adulthood.
Yes, yeah.
Because empowered adults. So the idea is I'm not forcing my views, my ways. I'm not forcing who I think they should be. I'm allowing them to just be, which is what I completely believe in and buy into in counselling.
Yeah.
So why would I not buy into that in raising children?
Yeah. What's good enough for the goose is good enough for the gander.
Yeah.
And that definitely sounds like a good recipe for a smart and healthy and like particularly self-esteem healthy. Like people, you know, since people are starting to notice that self-esteem is a big factor in depression, like it's like, how do you teach that? How do you get that in a kid from an early age? I think people are maybe like, how do I get that without making them arrogant? And I think it's like, well, you compliment things that are real. I think arrogance would come if you complimented things like they don't deserve complimenting for. And all kids do loads of stuff that are worthy of compliment, but like if you do like for I don't know, if you praise someone for I'm trying to think of an example. I mean,
but I suppose right. So, I would tell them they're amazing all the time.
Yes.
I'd say, even if they do think, I'm like, I don't like what you've done, but I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
But they're not identified, they're not completely defined by the mistakes they've made. So it's like I would believe, and I think this is true. I'd be like, right, Ellie, you're amazing.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, of course I do.
Yeah.
Right? It's just part, because she believes that she's going to live it.
Right, and that's exactly what I was looking for, because what you're saying is like you tell them they're amazing, but you also let them know that they have the capability of doing things wrong.
Yes, they do.
So like one without the other leads to an imbalance. So to tell someone they're capable of doing something wrong and not tell them that they're also a good person,
yes,
or
yes.
can be a good person,
Yeah.
it leads to depression. And to tell them they're amazing without letting them know that they're capable of doing wrong leads to arrogance. In
Yes.
theory, I don't know.
Because I'd be like, I'm disappointed with what you've done. I don't like the way you're treating Alicia. I don't like the way you did that. But I know you're a brilliant person, but you must think about how that affects other people.
Yes.
And also with arrogance, I can be arrogant. It doesn't mean I'm an arrogant person.
Yeah.
It just means I am capable of arrogance.
Yes.
So what were we saying?
Well, you were saying that you can have an emotion without being that emotion. That you can sometimes you can give arrogance, but that doesn't make you an arrogant person. You were talking about you can have an emotion.
Thank you,
without being
Steph.
it. Thank you, Steph.
You're awesome.
Yes.
Right. So yes, sorry. So arrogance without being an arrogant. It doesn't define you.
Yeah. And that's such an important thing to teach kids, isn't it? Because like what you were saying a minute ago about whenever you have to tell off a kid, just any of them, to say
Random one. All right. All right, less of it.
to say that I'm angry that you did this because I think it's selfish or something, that doesn't make you a selfish person. You're just a person who did a selfish thing. Like, that's so important, because a kid lives in a world of black and white totality, and to be told this is selfish, to immediately in their head go, I'm a selfish person, I'm a bad man, or whatever,
Yeah, but see, right, I was with you. It's no secret there's stuff going on with me in complaints procedures and anything, right? But I was talking to the Education Authority, and we were talking about some of the things that have been going on. And he turned around with this man, and he was very impressive, actually. I really liked him. And he said to me, all I can say is sometimes when adults work with children for a long time, a lot, they start acting like children, right?
Yeah.
Well, I find that quite offensive to children.
Yeah.
Because the behaviour that I've seen by certain professionals, my children would never behave like that. And I haven't seen many other. It was more to do with institutions and covering their backsides and lack of integrity. Whereas actually with most children, there's like they may be scared, but actually most children are inherently really good people, really good. Like I have in our neighbourhood, I would be the only house that lets all of them in. And they have one rule. One rule in this house.
What is it?
And it's be kind.
Yeah, it's a good rule.
It's be kind to yourself, be kind to everybody else, be kind to my house, be kind to my pets, be kind to my garden, be kind to my, right? Now, if they do not follow that rule, I say, right, and I usually give a few chances. There was once I had to, because there was littering. There was one child in particular kept littering to the point where actually I was speaking to him and saying about the countryside and saying about caring for nature. And then I found him hiding the litter behind. And I was like, I'm really sorry. At this point, we're going to have to say, come back tomorrow and we'll start again. So that's what I do. I say, right, come back to, if somebody, like another time, Lucia got kicked in the head. Yeah, it was a bit like, but I was like, right, okay, that's not okay. We do not do that here. Come back tomorrow and we'll start again. Now that philosophy and that way it means that I have very few issues with them.
There's a clean sheet every time. No need for shame.
No.
Which like what that says to me about the hiding litter is it's a kind of shame as well. It's like, I know this is wrong, but I want to do it, so I'm going to do it secretly. So if you say, like there will be, like, you have to go because that isn't great, but also come back tomorrow and it'll be, we'll start over.
We'll start over.
Yeah.
Because what I sometimes hear from adults, which I find very worrying, is he's bad child. And I'm like, oh no.
Oh dear. Yeah, that's not great. Well, yeah, because that's identity again, isn't it? That's like saying, like, it's that thing of you did an arrogant thing, so you're an arrogant person.
Yes.
And that's just who you are now. And
yeah.
Yeah, nobody wants to be told that. I mean, when you think about any even arguments between adults, like when does an argument start? It starts with a totality statement like that, like to say like, I think you're untidy, rather than I witnessed these three things that make me feel like you're being untidy, which is different. It's so different. Like, you know,
Yeah.
arguments always start with these totality statements,
Yeah.
like always. Oh, and telling me an argument that doesn't have the word always. You always do this, or you
Yeah.
never do this. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, that's incredibly hurtful because you're just telling me who I am, and fuck you. 'Cause
Yeah.
you can't do that. I'm
Yeah.
me. I decide who I am.
Yeah. And if you're misunderstood, it's so annoying. And if you're a child and you've got adults telling you you're naughty,
Mhm.
but you don't, like, you're naughty because you did this. And this was another thing there was a group of the children here, and one of them was getting a lot of attention for his behavior, which was naughty with the,
Yeah.
So he was doing things, but he was getting attention from the other children.
Mm-hmm.
The children, they were egging him on.
Mm-hmm.
And like my child at this point, because we had a real conversation about this, I was like, this year, he's going to get into trouble, but you're actually supporting and encouraging him doing it, but you're not getting any of the fallout, none of the accountability, none of the responsibility.
Yeah.
While the adults are looking at him and judging him, you're encouraging him to do it for your entertainment, and that's not okay. So I was making them all responsible, and I was trying to say that to the other parents, saying, look, he's being encouraged, like I was saying, my children are very, very good children, but they, if they get a bit bored, they'll encourage somebody to do naughty things.
Yeah.
I know that sounds, but like,
No, of course.
but
It's
it's encouraging them to think about what the behavior is communicating rather than just judging it.
Yeah, like a symptom is a voice, basically, of something, of a need, that's internal. And yeah, and you're saying that that classic adage of, like, even negative attention is still attention.
Yes.
And like, how that's such a dilemma, I think, for all parents. It's like, well, how do I get around that? How do I deal with somebody who's behaving negatively? Like, well, I guess there's just a million different ways, isn't it? But it's just it's difficult because the first reaction is to go punish. And I did this workshop on motivational interviewing the other day, and they're saying about how when it comes to reinforcement of something, there's like 4 different kinds. There's I think, I can't remember the exact phrases, but we'll say it's positive addition. So that's the giving of something positive to encourage good behavior, maybe. Negative addition, which is the giving of something bad to stop a behavior. So that's like I don't know. I guess spanking is the old one, isn't it?
Spanking.
So that's a negative addition. And then there's positive subtraction, which is you take away something bad, which that's basically drug addiction, isn't it? Like, you take painkillers because it takes away the pain from your back or whatever. And then there's negative subtraction, which is the taking away of something good to stop a behavior. So that would be if you don't stop screaming, you're not going to Disneyland. That's the threat of a positive subtraction. So like, it seems to me like the most powerful reinforcer is positive subtraction. Like, I mean, just because it's the root of all drug addiction, isn't it? That it takes away some pain, or it takes away maybe some mental pain, or it distracts from something. And I forgot where I was going with this. This is always friggin'
But
happens.
I love. See, when you said about smacking,
Yeah,
I don't
not
get,
effective. Not effective.
But it's still not. It's still happening.
Yeah.
But all it teaches you is I'm really strong,
Yeah.
and I'm going to control you
Yeah.
with my strength.
Yeah.
And then they grow up, and guess what? Some of them get really strong.
Yeah.
And guess what? Some of them start being aggressive.
Yeah,
back
yeah,
to get
'cause-
control.
Well, that's how they learn. They're going to get to the top of a hierarchy, and even the ones who don't get strong, they still respect strength, and it's not necessarily the thing that deserves respect all the time. Like, a lot of the people who vote in strong men, like say Putin, a lot of them aren't necessarily strong. They just grew up thinking the strength is what's to be respected, and that's to be what's the top thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see. And one thing, like, so in the schools, there's something that happened recently, and I want to talk about it. And there's another book I want to talk about. It's called Hold On to Your Children, and about pack mentality in children, which I've just touched on with the neighborhood.
Yeah.
But
Cool.
it's saying that, like, often the peer group of children are more important than anybody else, than any other figure. Their peers, and their approval is of greater impact to them than, say, adults. Like particularly,
Makes sense.
yeah. So what their peers think of them,
Yeah.
and that's, you're dealing with, like, people talk about social media. Social media, like, is
What a
not.
mess.
It doesn't help maybe, but the way
No.
they're using it. The information we're getting from the teenagers is the way that you're using it is like they're all scared of being judged,
Yeah.
but they're all being judgmental.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
see what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's coming back at, like, they don't understand the connection.
Yeah.
Well, how are you using it? Well, I'm being judging. Well, and you're scared of being judged.
Yeah,
Do you
exactly.
get it?
Yeah, it's like if you want all these likes on your photo to validate you, maybe you should start by liking yourself. Like, I guess, like,
Yes.
yeah.
But this is what, sorry, if like
No.
this is what I wanted to say, because so I had there was 30 in the class, teenagers, right? And there's a teacher there, and basically I'm like, stand up if you know how to end a relationship, and you feel confident about ending a relationship that's harming you. Stand up if you can identify, abusive behavior, psychologically abuse, right? Now, one I just threw in, and I was like, stand up if you like yourself.
Oh, that's a tough one, isn't it? I mean, even a load of adults wouldn't stand up for that, probably.
Two
Two?
out of 30.
That's a tough one.
Two, and I looked at the teacher who was in the room, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
We've got a problem with self-esteem in ours. And she said, it's like this with every class, and we do not know what to do. And I just think, like, there was one child who stood up, and I was like this. I'd been in the sessions, like, I think that was the 5th session. So I spent about 5 hours with them, and they were very engaged, and they were really lovely. Like, they were brilliant students. But there was one child who stood up who spoke with such a lack of concern for how others viewed her. She just was completely authentic. I would say, like, now, this is no disrespect, because I'm a geek, right?
Yeah.
And I'm geeky, I love it. But
Yeah.
she'd say she'd be considered maybe a bit of a geek.
Uh-huh.
She's not the popular child, right?
Sure.
So she stand up. I really liked myself.
Yeah. You won't find authenticity in the popular kids, but
Exactly, because they're going for mass approval. They're
Yeah.
people pleasing as opposed to just genuine. So she was like, right, but there was something she said that actually really made me think. I think I know where a lot of her self-esteem's coming from. She talked about her mother.
okay.
And not all the time, but she said a few things about her mother. And I said to her, your mother is completely accepting of you.
Yeah.
She completely accepts you and loves you as you are, and you've no pressure from her to be anything else. And she went, yes.
Yeah.
Right? Now that goes with the information that you only need one really positive role model in your life who completely believes in you. And you can believe in your...
Completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she came up to me afterwards, and she said her mother said to her, I don't care who you fall in love with. I don't care what happens or who you're with, as long as they think you're the best thing ever.
I love that. That's so true as well, isn't
Yeah.
it? Like I think it's so much what people look for in relationships as well. It's like they want to feel prized, which is that phrase Carl Rogers loves, isn't it? It meant unconditional positive regard, but they want it to feel real as well.
Yeah.
Like they want believable prizing. That's a nice way of putting love, I suppose, isn't it?
But do you know, I see the connection between they are not accepting themselves because they're not being fully accepted and they're not being fully allowed to be themselves. Like, it makes sense. It's not a criticism. It's more an observation, because actually the way I'm parenting is quite radical. It's definitely not something I was taught. It's something I've learned through studies, all that there, through personal experience. Free thinking is not encouraged in this country particularly, right? But it's quite radical to be like, not be parenting from a fear-based perspective. How's your exam results? How are you doing?
Yeah.
What's happening?
Yeah.
How are you going to achieve? You need to push harder. You need to do this. We need you to do, you know what I mean?
Right.
And that is the voice that a lot of our children are getting. A lot of our young people are like, it's dog eat dog. There's not all that much room
Right.
at the top. We can't all be at the top. You must compete. So therefore, we wonder why they're comparing each other.
Right,
Why-
right. They've been raised to compete and to
Yes.
that's and it's such a value that society has to like sort of jump over because it's antiquated, isn't it?
Yeah.
To say like, oh, well, to put it like this, the best single person at something is not going to be as good as the combined efforts of the 4 or 5 people below him if they worked together. And but society acts as if the first one is more important than the second. That that individually being brilliant is better than collectively being amazing.
Yeah. But what does it matter? Like, I remember with one client, she's like, but I don't think I'd be the best. And I was like, well, does it matter?
Yeah.
Does it matter?
I remember feeling like that exactly as a teenager, that like it just seems like why bother if you're not going to be the best in the world or something. And it's like, there's a lot of people in the world, not everyone's going to be the best at everything. There's not enough room, but it's fine to be good.
And what does the best even mean? Like?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. We hear sorry, something that just came up there in my head ties into something you said earlier about motherhood as well, like about Winnicott as well, and being a good enough mother, that people put so much pressure on themselves to be a perfect mother and think that there's so much stuff to do, but what Winnicott the theorist says is that, like, no matter what, as a parent, you're going to make mistakes, and you're meant to make mistakes.
Yes,
and you shouldn't aim to be a perfect parent, but a good enough parent.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also with my parent, 2 children, 2 completely different approaches. Like, they're so different.
Yeah, different ages as well.
But also I would always, when Lily was born, people say, "Oh, what approach are you?" And I'm like, Lily led. I'm Lily led parenting.
Yeah.
And then Lucia came and taught me that I knew nothing according to parenting, because she's different to Lily.
Yeah.
And all the stuff that worked with Lily wasn't going to work with her, and it didn't.
Yeah. Well, they're just different people at the end of the day. Like,
completely different people.
I think something that's really important is something that you touched on earlier, is that when we're talking about competitiveness, that teachers, for example, they're like, how do I know if somebody's good, quote unquote, or not? And the focus is always on results, when really the focus should be on effort. Like, there's probably there's been a bunch of studies on something called growth mindset, you've probably heard about, which is the growth mindset is the idea that you can change. It's as simple as that. You can change and you can become better, and that challenges make you tougher and smarter. So they found that the greatest predictor of success in childhood wasn't necessarily IQ or anything else, but something called grit, which is it's a nice word, isn't it? It's a cool word, and grit is basically an inability to give up, to keep bashing your head against the wall until the wall falls. And they found that a good way to increase grit is to is like one lesson in growth mindset, just to say that, like, there's fixed mindset, which is that who you are is decided, and that's it, and you can't get smarter or you can't get tougher, and that's generally what's taught whenever you focus on results. When you say, well, you keep getting C's, so you're a C student, let's see forever. But growth mindset, whenever you're just teaching someone that it's possible to change, is incredibly valuable, and focusing on effort rather than results. Now, this doesn't mean something that a lot of people always moan about, which is the idea of a participation trophy or a participation medal at a sports day. First of all, that's never happened. I've never once been to a place where I got a participation medal, because it is ridiculous. Like, you shouldn't get a medal for showing up. You get a medal for showing up and honestly trying. And classes should be like that. And a lot of things should be like that.
Yeah. We don't need to only do things if we're going to get a prize or be the best. Like, just do things for the love of doing it. Yeah. For the fun. And for
the value that comes from failing, which is growth.
And the experience.
Yes. Yeah, definitely experience, yeah. Like, you're never gonna get anywhere if you don't try stuff.
No, but then I think it's like, I think with I know for, like, with acting and a lot of things, it was like, people, like, they always say, well, what are you going to do with it? I mean, just doing it.
Yeah. Can I ask a personal question?
Uh-huh.
Acting. Did you want to do it since you were really young?
I did it. See, acting's been a weird journey for me. I did it I did it like in primary school, and then I did it in high school.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it, and I suppose I got a lot of attention and got a lot of praise about it.
Sure. Yeah.
But I had quite a traumatic experience where I had, they call it corpsing. Couldn't stop laughing.
Yes.
Right? So I stopped acting. So when I went to university, I couldn't stop laughing. I mean, I was crying with laughter during that last act.
What age were you?
It was 17.
So good.
Yeah. Well, no, what happened was one of the props people put fairy liquid in the prop. I was Mrs. Cratchit at Christmas Carol, right? And they drank the actual crack. So my children started choking.
Yeah.
Right. Also, my friend, who's really funny writing, had in my flower bowl where props are ridiculous. Right? She had written "Hello, Big Bum" in it, and I could see it, and I just lost it. I started laughing, couldn't stop. So it was really like embarrassing. And then as soon as the play ended, I stopped laughing.
Mm-hmm.
So while the audience was watching me, and I was on stage, I like the tears, and it wasn't a funny scene, and I was laughing because there was choking children and "Hello, Big Bum" and the blow.
Tiny
Anyways,
Tim dying in front of you, and you laughing till you cry.
Yeah, it was corpsing. It was awful. It was like so it was awful. Anyway, I didn't act after that. I was like, no, I'm not doing it. When I got pregnant with Lily, I thought I was going to die. Right? I was so ill. It's called hyperemesis gravidarum. You can't hold anything down when you're pregnant.
Okay.
I was awful pregnant woman. Anyway, I was like, right, once this baby's out, I'm going to do all the things. I'm not playing small. I'm living this thing. I'm doing all the stuff I'm a bit scared of. I'm not,
Sure, yeah.
So I did a actor training course, and I did it. And I was, I did enjoy it. And I did do quite a lot of performances, and I, shot Lily's actually in 2 films.
Cool.
And yeah, she's I did enjoy it, but it was just sometimes when you're good at things, it doesn't mean you have to keep doing them.
Sure.
Because I stopped enjoying it. Like, I did enjoy it at a point, but I stopped enjoying it. And I don't like the ego around a lot of the performances. People get really quite abusive. To it's stress and those
competitiveness again as well.
They think abuse, psychological and mental abuse, sometimes is okay. Directors, particularly in acting, they think to get results sometimes it's okay. I had one director say, "I'm going to break you to get me into this." And I was thinking,
that's Bane from Batman.
And also, who's going to put me back together? I was physically sick for a week because of that performance. But nobody cared because they're like, oh, it's art. And I suppose that's one of the things with acting and stuff. Like, it's brilliant self-expression. Yeah. But it's such a dog-eat-dog world, especially in Brighton and in London. The competition's like incredible. So I had agents then, but it was like the way they treated you. Yeah,
well, you're disposable, weren't you?
You're like, lose some weight. You're not ugly. You're too ugly. You're not good. Like, you're not the right size. Or maybe you like, how old are you? Like, it was like you were a mate. Yeah. I remember I was a Weight Watchers edition, and I got £50. It cost me the return ticket. Got in, put me on the scales. You're too big. Go home. Didn't even see me. Wow. Couldn't even read. Didn't even read for it because of the BMI. They were all good. But that's for
like, an advert for Weight Watchers, was it?
Yeah.
Oh God, the irony as well.
Oh, it was unbelievable.
That's ridiculous.
So that's like an audition. They invited me to. I spent £50 getting there because it was in the rush hour. Yeah. To London. I didn't even like stand on the scales. No, go home. I was like, oh. Then I had to phone my agent who wasn't happy with me. I was like, what the hell?
What a mess! Like acting, there's so much. I asked because I was similar experience. Like I used to act when I was younger, and it used to be what I would want to do with my life, even until I was like 17, and I had a bad experience as well. Yeah, but it was a play we did, Abigail's Party, and
good play.
I was meant to play Tony, who's a ginger man who's a bit perverted, and I wasn't great at playing it, but just because I'm not ginger, I mean I'm a pervert, but I'm a method actor when it comes to perversion. But the thing
He's
is,
joking.
Yeah,
sorry, children, mental health.
Again, it's just about results over effort, isn't it? But I really, really threw myself into that role, and I think what happened was because I people didn't really. I was like 16, 17. I didn't look like somebody who was perverted, and I think people found it kind of funny and thought, play it up, be more perverted. So by the end, I was basically just groping, and I had my fellow actress on stage, and I got like an A for it, and I'm like, I felt a human butt for that role.
Yeah, no.
Which when you're 16 is like, that's dedication.
And that's because it's not easy.
Yeah,
it's not easy being physical with somebody on stage.
Yeah,
I had to kiss people. Actually, in one play, I was bisexual and I had to kiss a man and a woman.
Wow. Right. Okay.
It was very, very. It wasn't easy.
No,
it wasn't easy because you had to. One was really anti being kissed, and the other, the woman was. We were like acting, but one was like deeply uncomfortable, so we had to make it really as impersonal as possible, but make it look as personal as possible.
Oh, right.
There's the level of discomfort of the other actor.
Yes.
Whereas the other actress and I had a lot more experience. We just like whatever, like let's go for it. Yeah. But that was like things like that. There can be very difficult.
It definitely, and I also I initially asked because I sort of thought there's no better test of how much your parents prize you and support you than telling your mum and dad that you want to be an actor when you're older. Yeah.
That is so true. This is another. I wrote a blog ages about mummy, right? And this is the subtle ways that parents are killing children's dreams.
Okay.
Particularly, I think, in Northern Ireland. Mummy, I want to be a tap dancer. Right?
The correct response is, sure, okay.
Awesome. Show us your skills.
Yeah.
Don't be silly now. Mummy, I want to be an actress. Or no, Mummy, I want to be an artist. I want to be an artist. There's no money in art, darling.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Very, very subtle. People won't even notice there's no money in art.
I think people are just so scared that their kids will never leave and they'll end up having to, pay for them forever. And it's like, that's not the case. Like, if they've any wet about them, and maybe they're doing art and it isn't succeeding, which is, the parents' fear for the child is that they won't succeed. Like, they'll find something else to do. They'll figure it out. Like, it's, you don't have to tell them now when they're 3 years old. Like, one day you'll be living with me and I'll be paying for your shit because you want to be an artist. Fuck you.
The other thing I find really funny, particularly in England, all the parents are like sitting in their £500,000 houses wondering why their children can't afford it. They're like, because your generation is selling them to the children who can barely afford them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They're like, oh my God, my poor child cannot afford to get on the property ladder. Oh, but our house is worth £350,000.
Yeah.
Well, do you see what I mean?
Well, I know that's a political issue as well, isn't it? That like it feels very much like the generations before us have kind of pulled the ladder up a bit. People who got free university vote to have everyone else pay for it. It's
baby
like
boomers.
Yeah.
Boomers.
I don't want to project onto them though, because there's plenty.
I
I mean, my parents are baby boomers, and there's lefty as they get.
Oh well, then I want to hear more from the lefty baby boomers then.
Oh, that
they can shatter some of the. Because and what I'm seeing is actually really quite worrying.
Oh, the world, terrifying. But I feel like I've dragged us away from kids. I've dragged us away from kids.
It's about children because we're all children.
Right. Okay.
But I suppose when we're looking at childhood mental health, what we're talking about is the parenting with fear.
Yeah.
The generations above.
Yeah.
Projecting their fears. And that's interesting because I have found with the processes that I'm going through as a child, like I am the child of parents.
Yeah.
I am the child of people, right? That they are still projecting fears that they have about the way I'm living. And I have to remind them. I'm nearly 40. You can back off now. I'm making my own choices. This is my life.
You have a house. You have a job.
Yeah.
Jobs.
Yeah, jobs.
Yeah.
Children. Very happy children.
Yeah.
Living not traditional way, but this wasn't our plan. We didn't plan to home educated.
Yeah.
Kind of was thrust upon us in a
Yeah.
rather painful way. But, so it's like the messages that we're sending to our children are incredibly powerful, and they can actually, that means that they can be empowering or they can be disempowering.
Yeah.
Now, if you're parenting saying the future's not bright, it's scared, you must do this to succeed. How open are these children to actually being their true selves?
Right. Yeah, to be told there's a way they should be.
Yes.
It's, well, I guess what Carl Rogers called conditions of worth. Like,
Yes.
these are the conditions that you feel you must be to be loved. I mean,
Yes.
I suppose you see a 3-year-old and you ask a 3-year-old to sing, that 3-year-old's going to fucking sing. And you ask a 6 or 7-year-old to sing, and they'll be like, I don't know, because that's when these conditions of worth start to come in. It's like, oh, be a good little boy, be a good little girl, be quiet for a minute, or something like that. I guess that's a very simplified version of what I'm saying, but
No, because, tell me why they reject children from choirs in primary school.
they reject kids from choirs.
Yeah, children audition from
Really?
Yes,
I didn't know that.
Isn't that ridiculous?
Back in my day, I was a terrible singer, and they threw me in the choir. I think
but
they were
then
just
it
desperate for
depends on your
people.
school.
All right, well, that's it.
So there would be children rejected from choirs. Now, what message is that sending them about singing and their
You're
voice?
not good enough. Give
Yes.
up on that voice.
And
Tell
who
that to
gets to
someone whose
decide?
voice isn't even developed yet, hasn't even broken.
Yeah.
I know, yeah, who gets, like, no headmaster is the arbiter of what is good singing. You're not Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Well, look at choir competitions in this country.
I was actually in some as a kid. Our school went to school choir of the year, and I can tell you, not one of us really gave a fuck about the quality of our singing. We were that chuffed to be on TV, even if it was UTV at 3 a.m. or whatever time they play school choir of the year.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
So we'll go for a quote.
Shall we?
C.S. Lewis.
Uh-huh.
Children are not a distraction from more important work. They are the most important work.
Oh, that's so true. Like, Winnicott, again, he thought that the best thing to do to get world peace, to get a better world, it starts with parenting, that it starts with being a good enough parent. That's how you make a better world,
Yeah. And you see with my children in schools, right? I was saying with the process we're going through, I was like, I couldn't identify Lily's P5 teacher in a police lineup. I was like this. When she was happy, I stayed away. If she was happy and she was treated well, I was nowhere to be seen.
Autonomy, I suppose, it's like what Lucia was saying.
Yeah.
If it's going well, leave them to it.
Yeah. And if the teachers if my children are happy with the teachers, because all I want for my children is to have as many positive role models around them as possible. As many people believing in them and being kind to them and treating well, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's what I think, so actually, that's one of the most important things I think about anybody working with children. Do they have a deep love and respect for children? That's all I care about.
Yeah. And like what you're saying earlier as well about teachers, quote unquote, behaving like children as well. I think there's that's like a negative connotation towards childishness.
Yes.
Like, I think what they mean is that they're unhappy whenever they say they're behaving like kids. Whereas what should be associated with behaving like kids is it's play, isn't it? And joy, and something unrestrained,
curiosity.
Yeah, exactly.
The questions
That's
that they
childishness.
and the questions children will ask you sometimes will stop you in your tracks.
Yeah,
because you'll be like, "Whoa, I hadn't thought of it like that."
Yeah.
Lucia blows my mind like a lot about what the way she sees the world, and she challenges me.
They're outside of the box thinkers because they've never been in the box.
I know.
Well, yeah.
No.
Well, a good parent never puts them in the box anyway.
Oh, they get that. Well,
into the box with you.
Yeah, but they will challenge you, and that's why I love seeing the world through a child's eye, and that's why another thing with the sessions I run in the schools, I'm like this here to them. Look, we're trying to find out what's going on, particularly with the internet and social media for teenagers in 2018. Newsflash, I have no idea. Newsflash, that's so corny. I'm using that. Newsflash.
Yeah.
I have no idea what it's like to be a teenager in 2018.
Yeah.
So I need you to tell me. And it was when I was running those sessions that they started talking about anonymous websites as teenagers. Have you ever heard of them?
You're gonna have to elaborate, but yeah, I've heard of a few.
I haven't.
Really?
So yeah, but like apparently there's, I don't know, Sahara, basically they're websites where they go on
Yeah.
and they can write about somebody
completely anonymously. Yeah.
and say what they think.
There was one called, I think, Twit.tw maybe, I can't remember. It was like meant to be similar title to Twitter to try and, you know, bandwagon off that. Or there was Formspring, that was the first one. Yeah, where it was like a question and answer thing. So you put up a question like, does anyone like me?
Yes.
And then, you know, you get anonymous responses from people saying yes or no. And, you know, anonymity is where people can be their most cruel.
Yeah, but then that's but what I was trying to make them aware of, like who. It's like the anonymous letter I got recently. Like, that was creepy.
Yeah, scary.
Like, what is the intention behind
Yeah.
somebody doing something anonymously?
Yeah.
Is that actually more about them than you?
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely. It's not. It's everything to do with them and their perceptions.
Yeah.
It's actually not that much to do with you.
It's clearly something to do with vulnerability if they're trying to hide it, you know, or shame even, or just something nasty.
But if they felt good about themselves, they wouldn't want to be mean.
Yeah. What would you say, given what we were talking about earlier about disidentifying from something, saying that the act is bad and not necessarily the person? What if any of these people who you would use an anonymous website to say something nasty was listening? Like, what would you say to them?
I'd say, I'm sorry that you want to take somebody down.
Yeah.
In that manner.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you feel like that's an okay thing to do, because clearly you don't feel that great about yourself.
Yes.
It's like the one person who sent me that anonymous letter. We got it just before I walked into a 2-hour meeting.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing supportive. There was nothing kind. It was full of misinformation. Mm-hmm. Now, it's hurtful getting a letter like that.
Yeah.
But we just want to be left alone.
Yeah.
Like, there was nothing kind about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. It's like now I'm self-aware. One of the things that I found most painful was the first line, which was, I would be very open about having a mental health, you know, a mental health problem in the past, postnatal.
Yeah.
So, and I'm very, like, I would say I'm aware, and I would be very open book. The first line is, we're deeply concerned about your mental health. Now, how cruel is that?
And so much cruelty is disguised in patronising quote unquote concern or I'll pray for you. Like,
oh, that's in it too. There's a Bible quote, there's praying for us, there's you know, and that is anonymous.
Yeah.
And it's cruel.
Yeah, it is.
Because it's using my like we've gone through.
Don't tell them you're praying for them.
Yeah, or else say, Louise, sorry you're going through this. Is there anything we could do?
Yeah.
Do you want to meet for a coffee?
Yeah.
Not that.
Yeah.
The first line, oh, your friendship group, there's people in it, and we're talking about you, and we're really worried about your mental health. I'm actually going through a really difficult process. My mental health's brilliant, but we have to do a lot to take the stress down and look after ourselves.
Yeah.
But that is not in any way being of any benefit to us.
What concerns me about that letter is that there's elements of it that make me think they do want to say things that are not necessarily helpful or nice, but they also want to feel like they're doing something good, and they want to feel like they're a good person at the same time.
Yes.
This we're concerned and I'll pray for you and we all care about you, and you know, they're trying to phrase it like it's an intervention, and the actual content isn't necessarily an intervention, but just attempts at being, you know, distracting or hurtful.
But also that's anonymity. I would never send an anonymous letter in my life. I sign all my letters, of course I do. If I write something and I'm writing to you to say something, I will definitely own it, but then that would be something I would own my stuff.
You have to. Well, it's what we were talking about earlier about disidentification, but also awareness. There's a Walt Whitman poem line which I really like, which was so what if I contradict myself? I am complicated. I contain multitudes. I think I'm paraphrasing, but I just like that to be.
I love it.
You know, not everyone's going to be 100% like consistent and perfect all the time.
Yes, and that's one of the things too that I suppose is coming up, and this is with children, and I don't think they're used to like Because, right, so from that letter that I received, and I think I could write a book about it. It's so fascinating to me. But it's like, I'm mentally unwell because I don't agree with you. Because we don't agree. We have different views. Let's see, the real Louise was in it. Whoa.
Oh dear.
Who are you?
Yeah. That's nonsense, isn't it?
And that's what I mean. So with anonymity, people are actually being cruel in the most, and it's called gaslighting too.
Yeah. Well, that's making someone feel like they're insane.
Yes, it's you're shifting the reality.
Yeah.
You know, you're going, whoo. So it was like, there's things mentioned in it where they mention my siblings, they mention my parents, they mention quite a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
But it's a level of manipulation that if you're not aware, and also with my work in domestic abuse relationships and my work with abusive men, because I did in probation, I ran the
Yeah.
programs.
Gaslighting's rampant there.
Oh,
isn't
yeah.
it?
So we can identify it like that.
Yeah.
But what about the people who can't?
Yeah.
What if I got that email or I got that letter and actually I believe the
Right.
crap?
And you're like, oh, am I appearing crazy? Am I being mental right now?
Yeah.
Like, and then you doubt your own viewpoints.
Am I
and
hurting?
You ruin your own authenticity. And,
Yes.
And you lose. Yeah. Well, you just fall in with the crowd.
Well, so we've got vulnerable teenagers
Uh-huh.
who are saying, please like me.
Yeah.
Here, please.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people are anonymously telling them that they don't like them. And they don't, or this is what's wrong. Your nose is too big. I was told my nose was too big when I was 13, which led to a complex about my nose, which is 15 years took me to get rid of.
Yeah.
But the previous 13 years, I'd never even really thought about my nose. But as soon as somebody said it, that was at that point
Yeah.
how much it was important. That
Yeah.
people, I had their approval. And that's what we've got in teenagers.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is what we do, not just with personality traits, but with emotions. Like, so with kids, well, sorry, I've lost my train of thought. Well, with kids, right, anger. So the reaction with a kid being angry is often to just sort of tell them that their anger is wrong,
Yes.
rather than to sort of empathize and say, I can see that this is really important to you, and while I may not agree with it, let's try and sort something out. That certain emotions like anger or sadness are wrong, and then what happens when you're told that certain emotions are wrong is that they just sort of get pushed away.
Yeah.
And you get what I'm going back to Winnicott again. Calls it's lovely, man. You gain what Winnicott calls like a false self, which is that you get a personality that isn't necessarily real to please your parents. So there's a great film on YouTube called The Making of Them. It's about a load of kids sent to a boarding school, and it was during the 80s, but it's like a very powerful boarding school. Like about 4 out of 5 of the last prime ministers we've had have come from boarding schools like that. And in it, like, there's interviews with some of the parents, and it's like they're not there. Like, the dad says something like, yeah, he calls maybe like once a week, but it's not very intellectually stimulating conversation. It's like, he's 11.
And here you, the
Yeah.
intellectual conversation police.
Fucking prick.
Oh, Jesus.
Like, you imagine that man like holding a baby, going, "You're not very smart, are you?"
Yeah.
But you can see the false self forming, because there's like one of the kids in the interview him towards the end, and he's like with a cast iron forced smile, saying, "Yeah, I really love it here because I'm a tough guy. Like I can take this sort of thing." And it's like, you're as tough as anyone else. You're putting on this toughness because you're hurt and you're alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's something on the internet recently. I feel like you shouldn't talk about child psychology without talking about a certain American TV personality whose birthday was actually last week, called Fred Rogers, known in America as Mr. Rogers. And he hosted a small public access TV show aimed at kids for I don't know how long, a long time. And to the average watcher, it was, especially now, it just seems strange because it's like little puppets and songs, but it's about tough topics in such an impressive, accepting, loving way. He's incredible. Like, they never showed him here, and they really should, even now. But okay, well, an example, right? President Kennedy was assassinated. The week after that, Fred Rogers did a week of shows about death, aimed at kids. During the I think it was the Rodney King riots. they had a black character who was an officer called Officer Clemens. No, it wasn't the Rodney King riots. It was during like a time when black people weren't allowed to swim in the same pools as white people. They had Officer Clemens come in and he like dipped his feet in a paddling pool next to Mr. Rogers, and they chatted about differences and where hate comes from. He has like a little song about anger and about how it's okay to be angry and you can stop when you want to, and it's incredible. We'll share some videos on the page, but there's this incredible video of him appealing to Congress for money for funding for public access TV from a notorious badass of a congressman, and he just simply explains the premise of his show and about how it's about kind of humanizing and stuff. I'm really doing it an injustice in the way I'm explaining it.
No, but I think it's good to talk about them so people can go and look, and you'll be easily find like that information like on the internet or on YouTube and just have it, because I'll be looking.
Cool. I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
We'll put it on the old page. But there's clips of him just talking about what his show accomplishes, and he recites one of the songs about anger. Like I can't remember all of it, but what was the first line is what do you do when you feel so mad? When you feel so mad you could bite. Like even that phrase, when you feel so mad you could bite. It's so visceral, physical, and appealing to a kid in a way.
But anger's not the enemy.
Yeah, it's not.
Anger is like, I get angry thinking about how things have happened, but I know where that's rooted. That's rooted in frustration. That's rooted in injustice.
Yeah, it's the messenger.
Yeah, so it's the messenger, and it's often pointing me in the direction of injustice.
Yes.
But it's also, people are very, very scared of expressing it. But then people are very angry, but they're passive aggressive. But I would be assertive, and I would be like, yeah, I'm not happy about this. But that terrifies some people because they're not used to that. They're not used to somebody saying it's actually safe for us to be angry at each other. Yeah, it's safe. It's not. Nothing's gonna happen. But yeah, you're angry and I'm angry. Right? Okay, let's discuss it. But then we know we're not good at conflict. But you see what you said. You see these books here.
Yeah.
All of these books for children going through changes. I use books a lot, particularly with my eldest. You've met my two children.
Yes.
Lily is
very well-adjusted,
observer.
good kids.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Just saying it because we're on record as well. The minute this stops, Louise will spit in their face. No, I'm only joking. But go on, sorry.
No, but Lucia would be like me, like a talker to process. Lily's not. Lily would be more of an observer. She would talk, but not as much as Lucia. So whenever there have been issues with things that happen, Lily used to have like separation anxiety. Leaving her childcare used to be an absolute nightmare for a very long time. But I found that books would be helpful. She also went through a fear of death at a particular time, which is very common for children.
Yeah.
Now, for some children, they find it hard to process. They can find it hard to think, well, I would buy books on these topics. Also, there's books like The Kissing Hand for separation anxiety, The Big Bag of Worries for children because anxiety is off the scale in childhood, and we're talking primary age too. Yeah. And also I hear worryingly that some people are saying that children need to get used to anxiety, which is not true at all. Nobody needs to get used to anxiety. So, Mum and Dad Glue is a brilliant book for if parents are separating, because sometimes children can carry the guilt and they blame themselves. Okay. Like even the slightest wee comment, anything they overhear, a child can carry that. So, Mum and Dad Glue is a brilliant book for families who are divorcing. Beautiful Oops is a book about making mistakes and how you can turn the mistakes
Beautiful
into...
Oops.
Oh, it's there. You can see it.
There's have you heard?
There's so much books about emotions. I've got loads of them.
Death.
So much literature out there for children.
Cry, Heart, But Never Break. Have you heard of that one?
Oh, no, but I love it.
That's a good title, isn't it?
That's awesome.
It's about these kids whose grandma is sick and the Grim Reaper visits. And they sort of panic and they try and keep him busy by doing various antics. Like they take him in for a cup of tea and they try and distract him and they try and sneak Grandma out and stuff. And eventually Grandad just sort of comes down the stairs smiling and goes for a walk with him. And, she recites this poem to them about, cry, heart, but never break. That it's okay to be sad about this, but ultimately it will be fine.
Yeah.
I just really love that premise, you know.
Yeah, and that's it. Like, children need to be encouraged to explore their emotions and supported with them. Their emotions. Emotions pass through you.
Yeah.
They do not stay forever. They are transient, they are temporary, and they're often messengers that things matter. And to not inform and support children in dealing with emotions can lead to anxiety, which some ridiculous people are telling children to get used to,
Yeah.
which,
That's
surprise,
horrible.
surprise, they don't get used to.
Yeah. What would you change tomorrow if you were a genie about the education system? To make it
Don't.
better?
You're on the wrong horse.
Okay, well, what one thing.
All teachers just have a deep love and respect for children.
That's
it.
good. Yeah, you can't beat that.
Not be about because sometimes in this country teachers hold themselves up, but I can, like, the teachers that have loved and respected my children, I don't care what they've learned, if they felt valued, if they felt great, if they've enjoyed themselves. Like, I have this deep belief my children are going to be successful. Now that might be, Lily might run like a dog rescue place, but they're gonna succeed. They're gonna know what's important, and what's important to them is fulfillment and happiness and contentment and being treated well, and living a good life, and being good to others, right? Now that might not be what a lot of the education system is pumping into their brains.
No, it's about
Of a
results and find a way to make some money.
Money, honey.
Money.
Well, actually, it says that in the document, that the aim of the document, because the Education Authority. Because I've been
You're
stalking
involved, yeah,
them.
you-
Oh no, I'm in there.
Fingers
I'm
in
like
all the
Gavin
pies,
Boyd,
man.
chief executive. He's the chief executive. I'm like, I would like a meeting with Gavin. They're like,
Yeah.
who are you? Who are you? I'm like, I'm coming for Gavin Boyd. He's the chief executive of the Education Authority. But the Education Authority, the document that they had with regards to the focus of education and why it came about, was to make children financially independent. It actually says
Wow.
it. Yeah. It's one of the chief aims of the education, make them financially independent.
Love your kids for 18 years and then they can fuck off.
Fuck off and earn your own money.
Can I give a sort of wanky answer to the question of what could I change if I was a genie? One thing tomorrow.
Look, sorry, I was just all about me. I don't care what you think.
You're
Nick.
more involved, to be honest.
Sorry.
You know,
Sorry, look.
no. I think if one practical thing that would be so fucking easy for them to do, and loads of people would be willing to do it for free, was like one. Do they still do periods in school? Do they still do periods, double periods?
Yes.
Of what's it, half an hour each? I think if you had like one double period a week with maybe a different speaker every time, but I can think of maybe 3 or 4 different things at least. So like you could have and just about self-care and looking internally. So for example, you could have a week with mindfulness, and I know even like the Buddhist monk, because there's only like one I think in Belfast, would happily do that for very little. You could do a week on mindfulness. You could do a week from a person-centered therapist talking about emotions and feeling okay, and congruence and things like that. You could get a week on, say, CBT. Because the thing is, right, CBT is a skill that can be taught to do to yourself, and I think teaching it to people when they're young is a great idea. Like, when you feel anxiety or anger, does it fit?
No, it's got to, we're in crisis. It's got to get even worse before they start waking up the education system to just how much they're feeling in terms of mental health. And it's not the teachers.
Yeah.
It's the fact, right, we're going in there, us already, and positive relationships, and the feedback we're getting, and the children, and what they're saying is overwhelmingly they're stressed.
Yeah.
They're not particularly happy.
Yeah.
They don't feel good about themselves, and they're stressed. But I'll tell you what.
Over-tested too.
The grammar schools aren't picking this program up at all.
Oh, right.
So apparently, even though children, we've had a problem with children killing themselves, grammar schools, no, they're not interested in developing these programs, right? Also, when they have us in there, they usually have us in PE periods, which in terms of mental health, they've only got a couple, maybe in a week in high school. So they're giving us, so they sit down, so they won't give us any of the other subjects. PE, which is very important for mental health, they'll give us, which some of the children will resent already.
Yeah.
Because if they're interested in physical education and they're not doing it a
So
lot.
they make you do PE at home? Is that what you're saying?
They will maybe give us speakers coming in from different. They'll not give us like geography or maths, because
okay.
they'll be like, well, what about my 4 hours?
That's
geography.
ridiculous.
We're going to go be behind.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is how important the importance they're putting on it. Some will only give us the non-academics. They will, the students who they don't think will academically achieve very well. So they'll only be getting this information. This is how much value they're putting. So we've got 909 people killing themselves. The highest rates of suicide in the UK. Most medicated country. And our schools are sending the message that this doesn't matter. It's not good enough.
What a mess.
It is. And how much worse does it have to get before you start actually valuing the mental health of the children over the results?
Yeah.
Like the grammar schools are not agreeing. The schools, now I'm going to say this is my experience and it's limited. Catholic schools are taking this more seriously.
Why is that, do you think?
I don't know. The atmosphere in a lot of the schools, the atmosphere in the smaller high schools, like I had a principal stand up and tell her students, I'd never heard of a principal of a high school. She's like, we love you. We really value you, right? We think it's so important that you all have good lives. This is why we've got her in, Louise in. I swear, I was like,
It's a great intro.
I was like this is a country school, right? This is Claddagh, actually. I can't even speak highly enough of that woman. I was like this to the students. Never met. Say, if I lived here, I'd be sending my children there. I've never heard a head teacher talk like that to students.
Yeah.
You are
Credit where
loved.
it's due,
You are
like.
respected. That is amazing. And then she came at the last session. They gave me, they presented me with a gift. She made a big speech.
Oh, wow.
About how much they've, but pure respect, pure kind. They were cared for. The atmosphere in that school was brilliant, and it was a smaller school, and the students were so kind, but they were valued and they were treated really, really well. In another school, one that I went to, I was dealing with the non-academics, right, and it's the fucking course is about relationships, and the woman who I find really unhelpful, really unkind, not cooperative, started telling a young person off who said something about sexual relationships. She started telling
in
him
a
off.
relationships class.
Yes.
Ridiculous.
And I was like, she was like, he's being disrespectful. He's being really rude. And I was there and I've been doing education. I've been in and out of schools since 1999. But for a lot of teachers, if I don't have a PGCE, it means nothing. Even though I've got 2 qualifications in education and I work in a lot of schools. But I've been told repeatedly, but you're not a PGCE, so you can't really comment on education.
You're about to get a PhD, aren't you?
Well, in education, it's going to be social science
Surely
education.
That's more than a PGCE.
No, I haven't done a PGCE. Who am I? Who am I to talk? Anyway, so she was like, I was like, he's not being rude. And she's like, no, he is. So therefore, there's this child, and I've been invited in to help with relationships at a time where in a class where they weren't treated well, with her telling him he actually said something which I thought was important, and then she shut him down and told him, no, you're rude. And I was like, no, I don't think he is being rude. And she was like, no, you're wrong, he is being rude. So therefore, what did that do to that conversation about sex with the teenager who's
don't talk about sex,
absolutely.
You're being rude.
So that they're the experiences you're getting.
Yeah.
They're the messages that the young people are getting.
It's crazy, isn't it? Like, especially when it comes to the example of, say, teen pregnancy as well. It's like, what makes teen pregnancy go down? Well, it's good sex education. It's making people comfortable talking about sex. It's not this primitive attitude of like, oh, don't talk about it, lie back and think of England or whatever.
But this is it.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Well, and one of the things, I was in another school and they are very, very supportive. It's another school in this town. And they were like this. I was like this here. Okay, sex education. What's sexy? Consent.
Yeah.
No grey areas.
Yeah.
Everybody knows what's happening. What's not sexy? Sex offender register.
Yeah.
Police investigations.
Yeah.
Criminal record.
Leaving a house, not sure whether or not that was consensual. Like, that isn't a good feeling,
No.
I imagine.
Yeah, but that's it.
yeah.
You see, and that's the level that I suppose we should be supporting our young people.
Yeah.
And having these conversations. But just aware of time. But there's another thing. A quick, because we're going to have to edit this probably. Snip.
Yeah.
A quick one about a dream.
A dream, yes.
Do you mind?
Not at all.
so you're very good.
I'm all right. I'm all right.
Yeah. So the dreams, well, right, okay. So this one was a bit weird. But
Okay.
It's very short. They're all very short.
Okay.
Right. So it was in here.
Okay.
It was in this room. I stand in this room.
Yeah.
And the postman came in,
Okay.
walked up, and gave me 2 letters.
Came into the house.
Yeah, he does though.
Oh, okay.
Lily said the other day, you know the way the postman breaks in? He just, like, if the door's open, he'll throw parcels in, kind of thing, right? He came in. Now, he had a cardboard cutout mask on,
Okay.
which had very crude. It wasn't colour. It was just cardboard cutout with the eyes cut out, like brown cardboard of a box, right? Came in, gave me 2 letters. Said these 2 relationships, as you know it, have now ended,
Ooh.
and walked out.
Right. Ooh. Okay.
Now
Did you open them?
the dream was over.
Oh man, that's so annoying. Okay. Okay. Well, right. There's a lot there. What was the general feeling of the dream?
Confusion.
Okay, confused. And what's your immediate hunch as well?
2 friendships ended.
Okay, yeah. So like you
Two-
yeah, they were real. They're very real message.
Or it was a bit ambiguous at time, but then on reflection, I was thinking 2 relationships ended.
So a messenger comes in, a masked messenger.
Yes.
So something mysterious is happening, and there's 2 relationships are ending with. Now, it's not always people. It could be parts of you.
Yes.
There's a relationship changing too. I need to know more about what's in the letters. So there's something certain therapists believe in called active imagination, which I'd like to talk about in the next one just a little bit. But it's a process of sort of going into the unconscious while you're awake in a way, and sometimes you can do that to finish a dream, if you know what I mean, that's been cut off early. Don't do it right now because this is under pressure. It won't be real. You have to try and relinquish control and sort of let it happen. But I think it'd be interesting to do that yourself in the meantime. But I'm interested in this postman. So what's your relationship like with the postman?
I like them.
Okay. Well, all postmen or him in particular? Is it the same guy?
I genuinely think postmen are pretty decent. Like,
Okay. So quite a benevolent.
It's not a public service anymore, though, is it? It's a private thing.
Is it? Oh yeah, it has. It's been sold, isn't it?
Yeah, but I kind of have no issues with them.
Okay.
I wanted to be a postwoman for a while.
Uh-huh.
The interview was hilarious.
Oh, you got interviewed for it?
Oh yeah.
What happened? What do they ask you that for that?
It was hilarious. Actually, the man just looked at me like at 5 ends. He was like, environmentally, like, how would you make sure, like, it was a question like, how would you make sure the environment was treated well, right? And I was like talking about carbon footprints and how we're all part of the greater scheme of things and all this here. And he just looked at me like shaking my head at the end. He's like, this year, would you pick up your elastic bands? And I was like, this year, after a 10-minute monologue about the earth and the carbon and all this here, I went, yeah.
I'd love it if he said no at the end of all that.
Yeah.
He did the whole thing about the carbon footprints. He's like, would you pick up your elastic bands? And you go, what? No! And then you light up a cigarette and you put it out inside.
I described it to somebody who said, what was it like? And I said it was like I walked into the building, right? And it was like testosterone was dripping off the walls. Or no, I didn't say testosterone. I said semen. So it was a bit masculine, to be honest.
Right.
I think they were just like, oh my God, she's not going to fit in.
Intense.
It was intense.
So did you not get it?
No, I did not.
Oh.
He was looking at me like, at one point he said, I don't understand what you've just said.
Right.
I was talking about public services being privatised.
Is that one of the questions?
No, that was one of my answers.
I'd love it if in an interview to be a postman they ask your political position on privatisation.
That's what I gave him. I think that's why he was like, I don't understand what you're
I think
talking
they might have thought you were overqualified.
I don't know. I just thought they thought also like they were like, can I check a car? And I was like, I will try to check. Did you have to check your car before you drive?
For bombs and stuff, or
no, for like
the
oil levels.
Oh, yeah.
tire pressure.
Aye.
No, like that. Like,
Yeah.
and I was just a bit like, I just thought it'd be nice to walk.
I'll not check the cars. I'll be taking my trike.
Oh dear.
So postman comes in. Oh, okay, right. So an old ambition, maybe. I don't
Well,
know.
it's just a passing. It's like I've done so many different jobs, and I was just thought, oh, I'll try that. That would be nice.
Okay. Yeah, could be relevant, I suppose. And he's wearing a mask. What kind of face was in the mask that was cut out?
It was very plain. There was no detail.
Okay, something very robotic. So it's like a external event that is just pure rationalism. It's something that's completely. Am I anywhere near anything?
What was it again?
So it's like an external event because it's something that comes into your house. So, in my opinion.
Oh,
And it's something that's just pure rationalism, blank face, like a robot almost.
yeah.
Does he talk like robotically? or-
No.
No. Oh, okay.
He doesn't usually talk, so that was weird that he
Okay.
talked.
Okay. So something's speaking to you that doesn't usually speak.
Yeah, 2 relationships come to an end, but it was kind of, it had to happen, and it's positive
Do you
kind of
f-
feel.
Do you feel like 2 relationships have
Yes,
come to an end in your
there's
life?
been quite a few.
Ah, okay. And it could just be even the end of a relationship as you know it. Like you have 2 kids, they're growing up. Maybe
Yes.
But I mean that's just a shot in the dark. But so 2 relationships come to an end, and you say that jibes with your current experience, and something's speaking to you that doesn't normally, and it's something that's quite like a blank slate, usually.
Do you know what I think it is now you're saying this?
Well, what?
I think that I would usually be quite accepting of, I wouldn't be, people would do things that I don't really necessarily like sometimes, especially like friends that wouldn't be that close to, but I'd be quite friendly with.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just accept things that I wouldn't do, but they maybe do.
Sure.
I actually think around that time I got firmer with my boundaries.
Okay, right.
I was like, I don't actually have time for this shit anymore.
Uh-huh.
I don't have time for inauthenticity.
Mm-hmm.
I actually don't want that many friends in my life. I only want
Okay.
these types of relationships.
Okay.
And I think that happened around that time.
Talking about authenticity ties into maybe a mask, like a persona that people wear that isn't necessarily
Yeah.
them.
Or you think you have to have relationships because maybe maybe you've known them for years, or so you think that you kind of sometimes you have a duty to keep them going. Or
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like being a postman, I suppose, like a job.
Yeah.
But that, again, I feel like I'm just shooting in all directions and seeing what sticks. Okay, so
Do you not think that's one of the things about dream interpretation?
Yeah,
dreaming out. It's important to
Yeah.
see, like to explore it.
yeah, I would explore every symbol and see what each possible thing could be.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're something inauthentic has come into your life, and you're starting to notice it for the first time.
I had noticed it, but
Oh,
I
you
think
had?
I went, boom, no, I'm not taking this anymore.
Oh, okay.
It
so
hadn't
things-
really bothered me, and then I thought, well, actually, where does it stop?
Uh-huh.
But it wasn't that. It's now reflecting. I can see,
Okay.
but it's like I was like quite tolerant of things because of people. I like them as people, but then there was behaviors. I was like, actually, that's not all right. That's actually signaling quite a lot of disrespect to me.
Mhm.
Like they're being disrespectful to me, but I'd be like, oh well,
Uh-huh.
and then I went, no, actually,
So things are changing.
yeah,
So these relationships are going to end, or not necessarily end, just change.
yeah.
Okay, I feel like we got something out of that. I mean, it's not my best work, but
Do you know what? You didn't have a lot to work with. But that one we went everywhere.
I know we started off with children. We came back to it. Should we end? Now, I know it says an hour 25 there, but there's a lot of stuff we get to snip out.
Oh yeah.
Because there was 5 minutes at the start. There was the technical difficulties.
The Lucia could be something separate.
Yeah, well, I think Lucia should be at the start. That should be our intro,
Yeah.
maybe. Maybe we could go back to it now and talk about it one more time before we go. Like, was there anything that stuck out to you? Did you learn anything about Lucia that you didn't already know? Or, like, the stuff that she said was very profound, I thought.
Well, I just think it's such a big part of her identity being a younger sister.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, whether she likes it or not.
Yeah, it's been huge. But and with Lily's the firstborn, it just wasn't, it's just not something she really spends that much time. you know. So I think, see, like siblings, which is we haven't talked about,
Yeah.
they have a huge, like I was second born.
Yeah, me too.
Second born's often the rebel.
I don't know if I'm the no. I was the rebel in that I wasn't the rebel. If you know what I mean.
Aye.
My brother was a bit more rebellious.
But you
not that
would
much,
be
really.
nonconformist.
Yeah. Well, sure. Yeah. I'll
Free
definitely
thinking.
question things. Yeah, but I would say he would too. Yeah.
But
Definitely.
you would be gentle,
Uh-huh.
maybe, in your rebellion.
Yeah, a very gentle rebellion. It was a gentle rebellion in that I followed the rules and he didn't. No, not really. I feel I'm making quite broad statements. He was complex and so was I. It's just
We are complex.
yeah, we are so complex. What were we talking about? We're talking about siblings and sibling relationships. I think it's really important to have one. I think only children don't suffer for it, but I think there's more to gain by having a sibling. As long as there's not like too huge a gap in terms of age, otherwise they may as well not be a sibling.
Yeah, but then like the positive roles or the positive influence in your life, I don't think necessarily has to be a sibling.
Mm-hmm.
So say like it could be people of similar, like the neighbours are here a lot.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
That those relationships are important too.
Uh-huh.
But with the thing with only children, and this is the worry that I see too. There's a lot of people can't have children.
Yeah.
So they're carrying that stress of, am I failing my only child because I can't have?
Right.
Do you see? Or
It's not a failure.
Yeah.
It's just probably a bit harder, I think. Like, so, okay, well, I've been reading a bit about this guy called Kohut, who's sort of a lesser-known psychoanalyst, who had this theory about, it's called self-psychology, I think, but he had this theory called the Tripolar Self, which is that kids need 3 things growing up, and that leads to a sort of healthy life. And the 3 things are generally mirroring, which is to tell your kid that their goals aren't ridiculous, basically, and that they aren't ridiculous. They're actually kind of cool. And then there's the idealized self. So that would the idealized imago is the phrase he used, but I don't like that. Basically, that's a parent or a figure who is seen as somebody to aspire to be like or to be. And then the third one is twinship, which is, he didn't write as much about that because he died after he first started talking about it. Little tease. But twinship is the idea that you are like other people and that you're not ridiculously awful or ridiculously amazing, is that you are a human being like other people. So if you lack in any of these, the others compensate. So, for example, talking earlier about people with low self-esteem, that's a lack of mirroring, not being told that you're class very much as a kid, and they compensate by that with this idealized person that they've seen, like, oh, I'm not very good. My dad is so amazing. I wish I could be like my dad. Or to, let's say, you lack twinship, like, I'm not like other people. I'm going to be Steve Jobs. That's compensating with the idealized person. Or I'm not like other people, and then they've been mirrored well. They go, I'm not like other people because I'm amazing. They called it the tripolar self. To lack any of these, it's compensated by others, and that leads to imbalance. And when you have enough of this from a parental figure or growing up with somebody or from a therapist, that plus empathy leads to a sort of transmutation, and you're able to give it to yourself. So like that means, you know, a well-balanced person as an adult is able to mirror themselves, aka decide for themselves whether or not their goals are worthwhile, idealize themselves, just to believe that you can be better, and to give themselves the idea of twinship, which is to realize that you're just like other people. If you're suffering, other people are also suffering, and there's solace in that. Or if you know you're doing well, other people are also doing well, and there's joy in that.
Yeah. Well, you see with this whole thing, and this is like, I think for me the most important thing is to remember that we were all children.
Yes.
We're actually still the same children as we were. And to just think, how would we want to be treated?
Yeah.
What did we value? What did we enjoy? How did we feel when people were kind?
Yeah.
How did they feel when they believed in us?
Yes.
How did they feel when they trusted us?
I think that's something definitely to keep in mind, but also that could also be a way of falling into the trap of what we're talking about earlier with our parents trying our parents try and parent us in a way that they wish every parent tries to parent their kid in the way they wish they were parented, I think.
Do you?
I think that there's elements of that. I think it's definitely, you need to keep in mind what it was like to be a kid, otherwise you can't empathize with them. And you need to keep in mind what your childhood was like, because, that is so important. But also mix that with what your kid tells you, because they might be different as well. Basically what you've said earlier.
I can't even remember.
Neither can I. Well, it has been an hour and a half. You're allowed to forget.
Good.
You're allowed to forget stuff.
But there's our children mental health. I hope it's been useful.
Yeah, me too. I hope it's been entertaining.
Yeah, I hope it's been entertaining.
Yeah.
I hope it's recorded.
Yeah, I hope that most of all. It can be unhelpful and unentertaining as long as you can fucking hear it.
And as long as you can hear this jingle, baby.
Oh shit, here it comes.
Therapy Geeks. See you later.
Amen.
Hello. Hello.
Oh yeah, no, here, come over as well. I've got to stand up so we can both chat to you.
So hello, Lucia.
Hello.
Special guest today.
Yes. Lucia, what is it like being 6?
It's good.
Oh,
good.
awesome.
Okay, good review so far.
Yeah, what's the best thing about being 6?
The best thing is that I
Take your time.
let's see here. The best thing about being 6.
It's a tough question, isn't it?
Let's see here. I don't know.
What's your least favorite thing about being 6?
My least favorite thing is because if you're like me, you have a sister, and if it's a big sister, then it's really annoying.
It's really.
Yeah, because like Lily sometimes, if she wants me, I just want to have some alone time in my room, and then she just randomly knocks my door, like, and I just open it, like, what do you want? And I'm like, and she's like, she says something.
Yeah.
And there's loads of like, and our neighbour Georgia is mostly Lily's friend, so she normally knocks because of Lily, and then I have to like hit ding dongs and stuff, and I'm normally the one that has to answer.
Really? Oh,
Because Lily has to stay in bed or she's doing her makeup, and I always have to. Well, I don't always have to do it. I just, it's hard to say no to Lily, so I normally just go to George's house and ask her if she comes out, if she wants to come out. She normally says yes, but she sometimes says no, and then I'm just so annoyed because I just walked away for nothing. I normally walk in the rain, actually, to George's house.
In the rain.
Yeah, I don't really care what weather it is, I just...
Somebody call social services.
Actually...
You're giving your kids colds.
I knew this was a bad idea.
What?
Oh, no. So, Lucia, what do you think is the biggest difference between children and adults?
Ooh,
The biggest difference is that adults can do nearly anything they want, and children sometimes has to be bossed about a bit more.
Really?
Yeah.
How does it feel to be bossed about a bit more?
It's very annoying.
Yeah.
Is there anyone that you get to boss about in your life?
Yes.
Oh, who's that?
I get to boss about sometimes Lily. Yeah, because today I told her to take my popcorn out of my room and she didn't. She did, not didn't. Okay, and I normally get to boss around Juno.
Juno the dog.
Yep.
Oh, dear.
And I get to boss about myself.
Yeah, well, that's the best person to boss around because they're always listening to you.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, very
So,
good.
one more question.
Mhm.
What do you think, how do you think parents or teachers or adults can treat children better?
They can treat children better by letting them do their own thing.
That's a really good
A bit more.
answer.
Just a bit more.
That's
bit more.
That's a very good answer. So what I'm gathering is that the family has you as their sort of butler, because you open the door and you like get sent across the street and you get sent on all these errands.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that not why we have children?
Yeah, to carry our stuff for us.
To do our stuff. Thank you,
Toss around
Lucia.
our bags.
Okay. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Therapy Geeks. Find us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Podcast Addict, Deezer, Listen Notes, Stitcher, Podcast Index, and Buzzsprout. Give us a like or a follow or a subscription, whatever your podcast app allows. Thanks for listening.